before tabling in Parliament as Cabinet races to implement significant realignments. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Laura Omondi. My name is Cynthia Nanjala. This show kicks off right now. A surprise Tuesday morning meeting by key opposition figures has lifted the lead on behind-the-scenes political maneuvers in crafting a united front against President William Ruto's 2027 re-election. Who are the team members? Rigathi Gachagua, Fred Matiang'i, Kalonzo Musyoka, Martha Karua, Justin Muturi, Mithika Linturi, and Eugene Wamalwa. Questions still remain on who will become the flag bearer of this opposition as the battle for the country's top seat begins. Emmanuel Marwa kicks off this bulletin with that report.
A few days after jetting back into the country, former Interior CS Fred Matiang'i has met up with other opposition leaders led by former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua for a crucial meeting as they firm up their 2027 plans. This was Matiang'i's first ever public meeting with Gachagua's camp, ending speculations about his political alliance ahead of 2027. The high-stakes meeting in Nairobi is part of a series of high-profile engagement organized by the opposition as part of early efforts to build a national movement ahead of 2027 general election. Other leaders who attended include Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, Martha Karua PLP, Eugene Wamalwa DAPK, Moisa Kitui, former CS Mithika Linturi, and Justin Muturi. In a 4-page press statement to Newsroom Tuesday morning, the opposition leaders voiced their support for the BBC documentary dubbed Blood Parliament, saying the execution of peaceful protesters in June 2024 was premeditated and sanctioned at high levels and executed by section of security agencies under the command of President William Ruto's administration. They also hinted at an alleged hand-picked killer squad who operated outside the command and control structure of security institution. Additionally, they accused President William Ruto of illegally and forcibly grabbing private and community land grossly, undermining the land rights. They referred to the land fraud as a national crisis, operating with the protection of heavy-handed police forces and a compromised justice system. They cited events at Kilgoris Mavoko, Nairobi and Nabibi land disputes. The group also poked holes into the management of the IEBC recruitment process, saying it has not set the highest standard for credible elections. They urged their selection panel to vindicate itself by giving a comprehensive exit report and nominate credible Kenyans to the position of chairperson and commissioners. This new development sets the ground rolling for political campaigns ahead of 2027 with an eye on who will challenge the incumbent President William Ruto, with Kalonzo Musyoka, Martha Karua, Fred Matiang'i, and Rigathi Gachagua all declaring their presidential ambitions. Emmanuel Marwa, reporting for EBN TV.
As it was expected, members of Parliament have reacted to the documentary aired by the British Broadcasting Corporation BBC, dubbed Blood Parliament, unmasking the killers of Gen Z protesters in 25th June 2024. It was the center of discussion in Parliament on Tuesday, with a section of legislators calling on the regulation of foreign-based media houses and imposing stricter conditions. The MPs appeared furious over the allegations labeled towards the police and the implicated functions, including the legislature and the executive. Let's listen in.
BBC is funded to push the foreign agenda of the British people internationally, Mr. Speaker. And so we must know, is BBC speaking as a mouthpiece of the government and the people of Britain?
Let us not subjugate or discriminate against our own agencies that we think are doing their jobs. It's a matter of us saying, let us ensure that they have capacity to do their job. But let us not clap hands for foreigners who always come and say, this is wrong, what you are doing. Pointing fingers at whatever we do.
Mr. Speaker, it is a point in our country that all of us wish never happened. But it happened. Mr. Speaker, I think we have not handled this issue well. And that is why sometimes you find people from outside are coming to document this. if as Kenya, we were able to acknowledge that things went wrong and we need to fix it, then Mr. Speaker, even if BBC heard it, it doesn't matter. We have to fix our own problems on our own. We don't have to wait for BBC to tell us there was something wrong.
We would like to know for a fact whether what BBC is hearing is connected to the riders that this house put on the training of the British Army training units in Kenya, where we were requiring that any officer of the British Army, if they are found here in Kenya to have killed, to have maimed, to have raped, they should be tried here in the mother soil, as it would happen even for a Kenyan if they were found on, guilty of a criminal offense in the UK.
This doesn't mean that we don't sympathize with our Kenyans who have been killed. We did here. We mourned them. We empathized with them. We sympathized with them. But the timings of this report by BBC World is unfortunate.
Mr. Speaker, we have a very angry young generation in this country. And part of the anger is on the issues that we are seeing, Mr. Speaker. And we cannot bury our heads in the sand, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let Parliament take the lead.
Amnesty International has released the 2024-2025 State of the World's Human Rights Report, documenting human rights violations and a marked shift towards authoritarian practices in 2024. For Kenya, last year saw repeated attempts to infringe upon freedoms and human rights provided for in the Constitution of Kenya. This include the right to protest, freedom of expression, access to health, housing, and protection from violence, among others. The report outlines
Thanks for coming.
on civil liberties, including the use of excessive and unnecessary force by the National Police Service during the 2024 nationwide protests. At least 65 individuals were killed, 89 forcibly disappeared, and thousands arbitrarily arrested.
Thanks for coming.
The Kenya section outlines a sustained crackdown on civil liberties. This includes the use of excessive and unnecessary force by the National Police Service during the 2024 nationwide protests. Updated figures indicate that at least 65 individuals, Kenyan citizens, were killed, 89 persons were forcibly disappeared, and thousands were arbitrarily arrested. The government's response extended beyond physical spaces, the streets, the homes, the places of worship, and other physical public spaces, to the targeting of online dissent through enforced disappearances, arrests, account suspensions, threats, and physical violence to bloggers and other netizens online. These actions were designed to create a climate of fear for those expressing legitimate public criticism.
Angata Barikoi ward in Transmara South sub-county is gradually returning to normalcy after deadly confrontations between residents and police officers left 5 people dead and several others injured, including 5 law enforcement officers. The violence erupted during a protest against the planned demarcation of a contested 6,800-acre parcel of land in the Moyoi adjudication section on Monday. According to reports, the clashes began when officials from the Ministry of Lands, accompanied by police, attempted to begin the land adjudication process. The situation escalated quickly as the crowd turned hostile, prompting a heavy-handed police response that ended in bloodshed. Now, area MCA Joseph Koech confirmed that security has since been reinforced in the region and that calm has largely been restored.
Tayari nimesababisha investigation kubwa kufanyika hapa, na IPOA pia wako hapa kuona ya kwamba kama kuna polisi yote ile ambao wamefanya maneno mimi nimesikia hapa, IPOA wako hapa kama oversight ya polisi. Polisi yote ambao ameoperate outside the law anabeba msalaba yake. Tuko pamoja? Anabeba msalaba yake. Mtu yoyote ambao amefanya kazi kinyume ya sheria atabeba msalaba ya. msalaba yake. Ndio sababu mimi niko na watu wale niko na wao hapa, investigations itaendelea. Nimesikia nyinyi wenyewe mmesema tuko hapa, tuko na DCIO huyo atolewe hapa aende mahali ingine. Wanaamini huyo utoe hapa apeleka huko kwako headquarters huko, alafu leta DCIO mwingine hapa. Huyo to atolewe hapa, ulete mwingine hapa, ulete ule atakuja kufanyia wananchi hao kazi, ile kazi inatakana kufanywa. Ile kitu kingine nataka kusema ni vile nimesema, investigation tayari they have been instituted, na wale investigators kutoka huko Nairobi tayari wako hapa na nyinyi, watakuwa na nyinyi tuweze kupata ukweli. Mtu yote ambao wako na maneno lazima awajibike kwa mambo yake. Si kweli? Hiyo tuko pamoja wananchi. Hiyo mimi ni hakikisha yangu, mimi nawaambia kwa saizi.
The cabinet has resolved to implement significant budget realignments in line with the government's policy of fiscal consolidation and commitment to living within its means. In a cabinet meeting chaired by President William Ruto at State House in Nairobi, cabinet secretaries were directed to work closely with the National Treasury to identify and implement necessary adjustments within their respective ministries and state departments. The move aims to cap the fiscal deficit at no more than 4.5% of the gross domestic product for the 2025-2026 financial year, down from 5.1%, and with a medium target of reducing the deficit to 2.7%. As a result, the initial budget estimates of 4.3 trillion shillings will undergo substantial revisions before being tabled in Parliament. These adjustments are part of broader austerity measures designed to strengthen fiscal discipline and reduce public debt vulnerabilities and create the fiscal space necessary to deliver essential public goods and services. In furtherance of these objectives, Cabinet also approved the Finance Bill 2025, which focuses primarily on closing loopholes and enhancing efficiency, including addressing loopholes related to tax expenditures that have historically been exploited to siphon funds from public coffers, such as through inflated tax refund claims. Religious leaders in Naivasha have accused the government of abandoning victims of the Mai Mahiu Dam tragedy that killed over 60 people exactly 1 year ago. The leaders from Mai Mahiu noted that the government had failed to keep all its promises, which included resettlement and compensation. This came as it emerged cases of mental health had risen, with some of the victims turning suicidal as the full reality of the tragedy hit them. In the wee hours of 29th April 2024, a blocked railway culvert in Kijabe burst, flooding several villages, killing tens and leaving a trail of destruction. Hours after that tragedy then, leaders including President William Ruto visited the victims, promising them they would be resettled in a couple of months and compensated.
In the aftermath, the government of Kenya made promises. During his visit on April 30th, 2024, the President assured us of secure land for our people and promised to compensate those who lost their homes and livelihoods. It was also promised that the government experts would be dispatched to access the flood pathways and determine whether our community could settle in those areas again. However, 1 year on, we see no tangible action. The promised assessments have not been carried out. The land remains unsafe and our people continue to suffer. The government's assurance of compensation for rent and the repair of roads and bridges have not been fulfilled. Despite the media coverage and the public promises, our community still waits in vain for the aid and the justice that was promised. It is heartbreaking to report that after the cameras left and the world moved on, the government promises to pay for our people's rent and to repair essential infrastructure have been abandoned.
Eric Mutinda, a suspect in the killing of Multimedia University student Sylvia Kemunto, has been charged with murder. Mutinda appeared before Justice Diana Kavenza and denied the charge of murder. Court adjourned the matter to facilitate a mental assessment of the accused. Justice Kavenza ordered that Mutinda be remanded at the Nairobi Remand Prison and escorted to Mbagathi Hospital for psychiatric evaluation. Bail was denied at this stage, pending the submission of the report from the probation officer. The state and the victim's lawyer were directed to file and serve their affidavits within 7 days. Mutinda will remain in custody for 30 days, with a mention scheduled for May 29th to fix a hearing date and provide further directions on the bail application. The accused lawyer told the court that the state had failed to facilitate the mental assessment so far and reminded the court that there is a presumption of sanity in all criminal proceedings unless proven otherwise.
The Constitution protects his right. So does the Constitution protect the rights of the victim? So when I saw the tears, I saw a victim in court. They need to be heard. So you have told me he's not a flight risk. I do not know him. So it's the social worker who will go and investigate. Is he a flight risk? Where was he arrested? He is a suspect right now. He's innocent until deemed guilty.
Which are grounds that are very, very compelling, very moving, that bond should not be given to these suspects up until the matter is heard and determined.
We have instructions. We'll be writing to the Director of Public Prosecution and the DCI to widen the gap, to widen the net, to arrest those who assisted the killer to kill Sylvia. And we shall also be moving to get the university administration and security apparatus to be arrested and be charged for having been conspirators and abettors in this heinous crime.
Seasoned radio host Edward Kari Kwach has died. Family spokesperson Michael Okwiri reported that the beloved radio presenter died on Monday night while receiving treatment for meningitis. The family reflected on Kwach's impactful career, noting that his voice and presence resonated with many listeners nationwide. His passing comes shortly after the family made a public appeal for blood donations during his hospitalization. Kwach had stints at Hot 96 FM, at Nation FM, at Capital FM, at Homeboys Radio, and most recently at Spice FM. Quite saddened. We do condole with the families and colleagues as well as friends that have, lost their beloved friend and family as well. 5 people have been killed and 2 others injured on Tuesday morning in a new wave of suspected Al-Shabaab militants attacks on quarries in Mandera, with Burabor location now bearing the brunt. Mandera County Commissioner Henry Ochako confirmed the incident, stating that the victims had left Mandera town before the prescribed time, contrary to the agreement in place between the quarry operators, workers and the government. He noted that the group was ambushed at around 6:30 a.m., resulting in the immediate deaths of 5 individuals. 2 others sustained injuries, while some managed to flee the scene. All right, at that point, allow us to take a quick breather right here on EBN Prime Edition. We'll be back shortly with more news making headlines. Education and Training, TVET, has officially launched a nationwide recognition of prior learning program aimed at certifying the skills of thousands of Kenyans who have gained expertise through informal and non-formal means. Speaking at the launch held at the Kenya Coast National Polytechnic, Joseph Njau, the acting secretary of TVET, said the initiative serves as a twofold purpose: 1 for training practitioners and 2 for establishing regional committees to oversee the implementation of this program. Njau noted that many talented artisans in sectors such as construction, mechanics and hospitality have long been disadvantaged because they have no formal papers to validate their skills.
Secondly, we are here to launch the regional committee that will be guiding the implementation of the recognition of prior learning when you talk about the recognition of prior learning, I believe all of us, we know about the jua kali, whereby we have people who are having very high skills, but these guys, most often at times, they do not have anything to show in terms of certification, and therefore when maybe a job comes along, whereby somebody is required to show his certificate for him to be employed, these people cannot be employed, and as such they get a low deal, and that is why we as a government decided to mount the RPO program, whereby we shall be looking at the skills gained by somebody.
The jua kalis who have suffered for a very long time. Remember the mechanics in the streets. Remember the plumber in the streets. Remember the electrician in the streets. Who actually the parents died when this child was young. He never get anybody to take him to school, but he knows he has the skills to do anything anybody can do. That's what we are doing with RPL.
Kwamba muda mwingi hapa Kenya kumekuwa na kasumba kwamba mpaka mtu aende chuo kikuu apate cheti cha shahada, lakini sasa tunasema kwamba kuna njia nyingine ambayo imekuja ambayo ni recognition of prior learning, na katika hii recognition of prior learning la muhimu ni kwamba mtu anakuja na ujuzi ule ambao uko nao, alafu hapa wanampa mtihani na kumwangalia kama yuko sawa, alafu wanampa cheti.
Luis Enrique says Paris Saint-Germain, PSG are a much better team since October's defeat to Arsenal ahead of the club's Champions League semi-final first leg tonight. The French champions head back to London, having struggled through to the European knockout stages in a tough league phase that included losses to Arsenal 2-0, Atletico Madrid and Bayern Munich. PSG returned to their last four of the Champions League for a second consecutive campaign, having lost to Borussia Dortmund at the same stage last season. The club's Qatari owners have made lifting the trophy a clear ambition since taking over in 2011. The Gunners, on the other hand, have never been crowned European champions, demolished holders Real Madrid 5-1 on aggregate in the last 8 to reach their first semi-final for 16 years. Indeed, big night ahead for Arsenal and PSG. Everything is at stake here, including my own ego. So I'm betting on PSG, please, to do something tonight, or else, you know, Manu that does Request Tower and Scoreboard on Monday will not give us peace. So Odepo and Odepo was also a Man United fan behind the cameras, is just praying that PSG does something big tonight. Anyway, that match begins at 10 p.m. We'll be looking to see what exactly happens within the 90 minutes. But as they say, mpira ni 90, sindio? All right, we wrap it up at that point. Thank you for watching. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Laura Omondi. My name is Cynthia Nanjala. Good night. God bless.